Why we should never, ever ignore Donald Trump and APOS tweets. Chat with us in Facebook Messenger. Find out WHAT and APOS happening in the world as it unfolds. THERE and APOS a growing trend among Donald Trump and APOS advisors. Listen to what he says, not what he tweets. On the and quote today and quote show Monday, Trump counselor Kellyanne Conway bemoaned and quote the obsession with covering everything he says on Twitter and little of what he does as president. And quote on and quote new day and quote Trump advisor Sebastian Gorka echoed that sentiment, insisting to host Chris Cuomo that and quote it and APOS social media, Chris, it and APOS social media. You know the difference, right? And quote adding, and quote it and APOS not policy, it and APOS not an executive order. It and APOS social media. Please understand the difference. And quote HERE and APOS the thing, there is no difference. And, in fact, Trump and APOS tweets are actually more important than the more formal statements coming out of his White House because they represent something much closer to what he believes on nearly every issue. What the White House is trying to do here is have things both ways. On the one hand, they insist Trump will never stop tweeting because it and APOS his way of communicating directly with his supporters without the media filter. The media would love for Trump to stop tweeting, Trump and APOS advisors insist. On the other, they argue that Trump and APOS tweets SHOULDN and APOS be taken as seriously as official statements from the White House or policy proposals offered by the administration. So, which is it? Is Twitter Trump and APOS last defense against the biased and quote fake NEWS and quote media? Or is it the vehicle for the media to cherry-pick comments to make him look less well-versed or calm than his official statements? Put that obvious contradiction aside, and you are still left with this fact: the President of the United States is expressing himself directly on the issues of the day via his phone. To not cover that, and cover it exactly as we would an official statement from the White House, is an abrogation of the media and APOS duties. This is the President talking, or typing. How could we not cover it? This president makes no distinction between Twitter, an official statement, or even a formal speech. He uses them interchangeably and clearly feels as though Twitter allows him to speak most freely and directly. Why should we then treat Twitter as different in any way, shape or form when it comes to Trump and APOS communications? A Twitter handle started earlier this month, at Real Prosecbit, drives this point home better than I ever could. HERE and APOS what it does, scrapes Twitter every 5 minutes for new Trump tweets and then and quote transforms them into correct presidential statement format. And quote which produces this but also fundamentally accurate. Because when a president speaks, whether electronically or out loud, it and APOS, by default, a presidential statement. And, as his ongoing legal battle over the so-called and quote travel ban and quote brings into stark relief, Trump and APOS tweeted words have already been used against him legally speaking. In the Ninth Circuit Court opinion upholding the stay on the travel ban, the judges cited Trump and APOS comments, via Twitter and otherwise, as evidence that the president and APOS intent was, indeed, to keep citizens from 6 majority Muslim countries from entering the country. If it and APOS good enough for the courts, it and APOS good enough for the media. Throughout the campaign, Trump used his massive social media following as a way to drive news cycles and settle scores. It was, without question, a massive asset for him that the other candidates, particularly in the Republican primaries, Biden and APOS enjoyed. That social media presence, as anyone who has a big following on, say, Twitter, knows, cuts both ways. Trump is feeling the stinging side of late, almost entirely because he uses Twitter to contradict his AIDS and APOS attempts to manage his message into a form that is less controversial. THEMEDIA and APOS job is and APOS to put forward the most favorable Trump message. Or the least favorable Trump message, for that matter. The media and APOS job is to give the American public, who pay Trump and APOS salary, the best look into how their president thinks about the key issues of the day. And Twitter is, without question, the best window into Trump and APOS thought process there is. So, WE and APOS keep covering until Trump stops tweeting. Which we all know AIN and APOS happening.